This video was made possible by our channel sponsor, Venture Surplus. Check them out if you're looking for high-quality, US-made military surplus like camouflage clothing, tactical gear, survival and camping equipment, or even MREs that aren't expired. They get new stuff in all the time. Use the link and the discount code in the video description to save 10% on your order from Venture Surplus and support this channel at the same time. Thank you for watching. Now let's get into the video. Hey guys, I went through a bunch of different helmets before finding one that I really liked, and once I found it, I actually stuck with it for a pretty long time. That was the Avon N49 Ceradyne ULW Super High Cut helmet that you've seen me using pretty regularly for the last year or so. Before I got that N49, I was changing helmets like some guys change their underwear, once a month. Alright, that's probably not true, I hope. But not too long ago, OpsCore released a new model of helmet that basically checked all of the boxes of things that I'm looking for in a helmet, so I immediately bought it once I got it in, set it up, replaced the N49, and I think I'm going to stick with this one for even longer. This is the new version of the Fast Bump helmet, kind of falls in between the original Fast Bump and the Carbon Bump in terms of features and price. This thing really is like my holy grail of helmets. Nobody else made something like this before, and if this had existed before, I would have already bought one, and I probably could have skipped over a couple of the last helmets that I tried. Now, that's not necessarily the same thing as me recommending this helmet, because what I'm looking for in a helmet might not be what you're looking for. So, first and foremost, I have to point out that I have helmets as a platform for nods and communications-enabled hearing protection headsets. I don't own a helmet as a means to protect my head that can also support night vision systems. It's mainly just there for night vision, and any head protection that I get is kind of a tertiary benefit for me. This is a bump helmet, and that is immediately going to take it off the table for a lot of you guys who are mostly looking for a way to protect your head from bullets and fragmentation. Also, the main feature about this helmet that I like is that it's a super high-cut helmet. And I figured out after going through a whole bunch of different helmets that it's really difficult for me to get hearing protection on a helmet unless it's super high cut. Because of the way my ears sit on the side of my head, anything less than a super high cut helmet is going to push the ear pro off of my ears once the helmet is on. So, because over-the-ear communications-enabled headsets are the second requirement of my helmet setup, well, that means that I can only use super high-cut helmets, and that narrows it down to like maybe 3 or 4 helmets on the entire market. Since I don't demand ballistic and shrapnel protection from my night vision helmet, I think there are some serious advantages to going with a bump helmet. One of those is weight. And you may point out that some ballistic helmets are not all that much heavier than bump helmets. However, you kind of have to be careful when you're looking at these numbers. First of all, the ballistic helmets that are very lightweight also tend to be very expensive, and sometimes they compromise a bit on the protection. And if you're really buying one of these because you need that level of protection, you may not want to go with the absolute lightest ballistic helmet you can get your hands on. You also have to be careful when comparing package weight versus shell weight. The shell weight is just the outside shell, which in this case is a plastic brain bucket. In the case of a ballistic helmet, it is a much thicker piece of aramid or ultra-high molecular weight polyethylene or whatever. And then there's all the stuff on the inside and the outside of the helmet. So all of the rails, the accessory mounting points, the suspension, the padding, the chin strap, those sorts of things. Some people will argue that if you have a ballistic helmet, it will technically weigh more than a bump helmet, but you don't have to use counterweights in order to balance out the weight of the night vision hanging off over the front of your helmet, because the helmet already weighs more in the back. I don't personally believe this. First of all, the obvious fact that the helmet weighs more in the front too, because it's the whole fucking helmet is heavier, seems to contradict this idea. Also, weight hanging out over the front of your head is not something you experience basically ever in your life, so those muscles are not particularly strong, and balance becomes a serious factor. A well-balanced helmet is going to be more comfortable than a lighter but not well-balanced helmet, as in one that weighs a lot more at the front. It's going to be craning that weight with the advantage of leverage out over the front of your body. You're going to be tensing the hell out of your neck muscles to hold this thing up, and at the end of a couple hours of night shoot or a night hike or even an all-night nocturnal operation of some sort, you're going to be fucking miserable. So I have always used counterweights on my helmet setups regardless of if they were bumps or ballistics, because I think that the balance is of equal importance with the overall weight in terms of long-term comfort. Another advantage of bump helmets, if you're operating in a hot environment or you're going to be doing a lot of strenuous activity, is ventilation. They have holes in the top, heat rises. Heat also tends to carry some moisture with it, so a lot of hot, moist air can escape out the top of a bump helmet, but will get trapped in a ballistic helmet, will absorb into the padding, will leak back into your hair and down the sides of your face and into your eyeballs, and I don't think anybody enjoys that. So the helmet that I had before this was the Avon N49 Ceradyne ULW Super High Cut, whatever. It's a ballistic helmet. It is a super high cut helmet, so I found it to be very comfortable, and it's also one of the most lightweight ballistic helmets on the market. And that was a very comfortable helmet. I could wear it for long periods of time, and I didn't get a huge headache or a bunch of neck strain. But this one is lighter and more comfortable. And there are two things I have to point out about that N49. One, it's a way more expensive helmet than this. This thing costs a little bit under $500, at least when I bought it from TNVC. The Avon N49 helmets are often over $1,000, so more than twice the cost of this helmet. Also, when you start carving out the sides of your ballistic helmet in order to create a mid-cut, a high cut, or a super high cut, you're taking away the ballistic protection that you fought so hard to get in the first place. So just comparing this to my last helmet, I am more than happy to drop the ballistic protection in return for saving $700+ and also getting a lighter weight system.
Tired
I think he's cracked.
It's going delusional, dude.
Yeah.
It's called Delulu.
All right, so let's talk about the specifics of this helmet. It falls in between OpScore's older fast bump helmets and the fast carbon helmets in terms of features and price point, although it leans a lot closer, in my opinion, to the carbon than it does to the old school fast bump. I can't remember if I reviewed it or not, but I did use an original OpScore fast bump for a while. I didn't find it to be all that comfortable. The padding inside is pretty sparse, and so even with a relatively lightweight overall setup, it would still cause a massive pressure point on the top of my head after wearing it for a couple of hours. And also, it is a high cut, not a super high cut, and so it would push the ear protection down into my ears over the course of the evening, and it was extremely uncomfortable. The original fast bump also just has a molded-in plastic shroud on the front, which is not replaceable. So if you're putting a metal night vision mount into there and taking it out, putting it back in, eventually you're going to wear out a non-replaceable part of the helmet because that's metal on plastic contact, and that's not great. The OpScore Carbon, on the other hand, is a way more fully featured helmet. It's a $1,000 bump helmet, so it better be pretty freaking nice. Instead of the very minimalist padding arrangement of the fast bump, the OpScore Carbon has the Gentex Lux Liner, I think is what they call it, which has a much more comprehensive set of pads and a much nicer suspension system. The Carbon also has a shroud with a metal insert bolted onto the front instead of a molded-in plastic one, so not only is it going to be a lot more durable because it's metal, but it's also replaceable, so you could swap it out with a different type of integral shroud if you wanted to, or just a replacement if you ever did wear out the metal by removing your mount too many times. The original fast bump helmet is very affordable, but it's not great overall, which is why I think a lot of guys recommend the Team Wendy X-Fill bump as a starter bump helmet, because it costs just a little bit more, but comes with a much nicer arrangement of padding, much nicer suspension, and it also has a metal reinforced front shroud. The OpScore Carbon is the best bump helmet in the history of our fine nation, but it's $1,000 and it still doesn't offer you any ballistic protection, and that's a really tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. So in the middle, you have my Holy Grail helmet, the improved version of the fast bump that takes some of the features from the Carbon, but keeps the cheaper plastic shell from the original fast bump, comes in at under $500, and has every feature I could ever want. We still got the OpScore style accessory rails on the side, which are the ones that I like because they fit the most different accessories. We've got a metal reinforced shroud at the front, so it's going to be a lot more durable than the original fast bump. We've got the exact same liner and suspension system as the Carbon, so the padding is very substantial, very comfortable. It has a nice little dial for adjusting tension at the back, and the same chin strap and everything as the Carbon. I think this is the best bump helmet you can get for the money right now. Definitely kicks the shit out of all the Team Wendy stuff because, if you're going bump anyway, you might as well get super high cut. I think it's only when you're trying to add ballistic protection that you really have to worry about getting the helmet as low down on your head as you can. I really love this thing. The first time I got a chance to use it extensively was at the 2024 Moons Out match with Forgotten Weapons. We were shooting the first night in the staff group, and that was a very long night. I think we were on the range for 9 to 10 hours or something like that. Helmet on pretty much the entire time, and I was perfectly comfortable. Okay, I wasn't perfectly comfortable. I was actually quite miserable because I was very cold and tired, and I was trying to crawl through pipes that were not designed for somebody with my inseam length to fit through. Oh, God. Oh, I don't fit through the tunnel. Oh, hell. But at the end of the night, my neck and head did not hurt, which is something I can't say for any other helmet setup I've ever used, even for a significantly shorter period of time. So, all that's left to do is go over how I have this thing set up. I had a hard time finding a helmet cover that fit this thing at first because the cut is a little bit different than other helmets, and also helmet covers are sized differently depending on if they're for bumps or ballistics. My favorite helmet covers are the First Spear Hybrid Stretch. They have a little bit of mesh in them to aid in ventilation when you use them on a bump helmet. I ordered 2 different sizes, and one of them fits pretty well, but unfortunately didn't really seem to offer what I was looking for. I ended up going with OpScore's own helmet cover. I actually ordered this from TNVC, and I emailed them beforehand to confirm that I was getting the right size and shape for this helmet, and they told me which one to order. This one has Velcro in the right spots on the top and back to attach a counterweight pouch. It also has all these little accessory loops for routing cables, and I've got quite a lot of cables because I have a comms-capable headset, and I also have a night vision device that's powered exclusively from a battery pack, so I am running a lot of wires back and forth on this thing. The counterweight pouch is a TNVC Mohawk. I've used a couple of these before. They're available in a variety of patterns. This is the one for wide, I think it's like the ground style battery packs, and that's the type of battery pack that I have for my LLUL21 articulating night vision. I think if you were to buy an LLUL21 today, it would come with a different battery pack. I think they redesigned it to be a little bit narrower, and then you would need a different model of TNVC Mohawk or whatever other counterweight pouch you end up getting. The night vision mount that I'm using is still the Norotos Low Stow. I like that one because the nods do not flip all the way up on the top of your head, which keeps you a little bit shorter, makes it easier to get into vehicles, and I'm already pretty tall, so it's hard to get into vehicles as it is. The Norotos night vision mounts are great. They really are like what if Will Cox was actually good. The hearing protection I'm using is a set of Auto noise barrier tacks with the Auto Scorpion mounts. These allow you to mount them either to the side rails or the rear rails of the helmet. I have them on the rear to free up the sides for other accessories. The Auto headsets are decent. The audio quality I don't think is up to par with new models of Comtax or the OpScore amps. The headset itself is also a little bit bulkier, but it is quite a lot cheaper than new sets of Comtax or amps. Also, their Scorpion mounts are really good, probably the best hearing protection mounts you can get for helmets right now. For task lighting and IFF, I have a Streamlight Sidewinder stock. I've talked about this a little bit before. It has a flexible head that can produce IR, color, and white light. There's also a little flasher on the back that you can enable. So this thing is all of the features you want in one little device that sits on the side of the helmet. It just doesn't do any of those specific features very well. And just for a bit of added flair, I've got IR glints on the left and right sides of the helmet. I've also got a Possums of Hazard patch because possums are cool, a hop patch so people don't forget this is my helmet and they're not allowed to steal it, and then the Respect Trees patch because trees are cool too. Alright, well that's all I've got to talk about today. This helmet is perfect. I don't think these made a big splash when they came out. Nobody seems to be talking about them. Maybe everybody already bought a Team Wendy Exfil and they're totally happy with it. I don't know. If you didn't know about this helmet before, now you do. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. If you'd like to support this channel, you should subscribe to it and check out the links in the video description for ways to support the show directly. Just something to think about if you're into it. See you guys next time.